Sonic has had a weird track record with video games for the longest time. A lot of fans say the classic games are better, and a lot of fans say the 3D games are better. It's always been a split fan base. Sonic has had some amazing games that show the character at the highest of highs, but he's also had some games that show him at his lowest of lows. One of the games that stand out like a sore thumb in the Sonic franchise is a game that's been getting bashed since its release decades ago. Sonic the Hedgehog, also known as Sonic Next Gen, but widely known as Sonic 06. I'm going to give some backstory and my history with Sonic 06 so you can skip to the time on the screen if you want to just get into the review. I first caught wind of this game in 2012. I was in middle school. I just got my first touchscreen phone at the time. It was like, a phone that flipped with the keys. You know what I'm talking about. And I was bored on YouTube one day and I just searched up Sonic the Hedgehog. Cabana Money 456's video was the first video I saw, and I watched his playthrough on the game, and I was super invested on why so many people hated it. When you were a kid, you didn't want to see something that you loved get bashed so hard. And at this time, I loved Sonic the Hedgehog. I really wanted to get the game, but I only owned a PlayStation 2 at the time. Long story short, I got an Xbox Connect for Christmas, and it was the first gift that I got out the wrapping paper was Sonic 06. It took me 2 years to beat Sonic 06, and it was an experience that I will remember for the rest of my life. With that out the way, let's talk about Sonic's story. Sonic's story feels like it's ripped straight from a Mario game. Throughout Sonic's story, you're saving Princess Elise from Dr. Eggman, who's trying to release the flames of disaster that's sealed inside of her, also known as Iblis, and if she cries, he gets out. There's more to the story, and there's another villain, but I'll cover that in the other two parts. The biggest crutch of Sonic 06 is its gameplay. You'll take control of other characters, which has always been fun in the Sonic franchise, but they control very different from one another. In Sonic's story, you take control of two different characters, well, more than three different characters, like Tails, Knuckles, and Silver in one section. I'll cover Tails and Knuckles here. Tails can fly by pressing the A button, but the problem with that is that it doesn't really last that long. It only lasts for a little while, and he'll fall wherever you are. So if you're near a bottomless pit, like an aquatic base, he'll fall right in and you can't guide him anywhere to a solid platform. He has a form of attack called a dummy ring bomb, which has two variations: by flying overhead, by pressing the A button, which doesn't always work, but it's easier than the first person throw, and it takes more than one time to get that right. Knuckles and Rouge play fairly similar. Just like in the older games, Knuckles can glide, and he has an attack where if you press the X button, it'll hit the enemy. The problem with that is that you need to be extremely close to the enemy to do some damage. Knuckles also gets stuck on walls occasionally. It's not as often as you think it is, but it will happen once or twice during your playthrough. But enough of the side characters. What does Sonic play like? He's the title character. He should be fun to play as. Sonic, as well as the other characters, are really slow. I've never really played the adventure games. Let me know down in the comments if they're very similar, but Sonic is really slow in this game for a franchise built off of speed. It doesn't really have much to offer except for one section, but I'll cover that later. The physics are really wonky. You'll find yourself dying a lot if you've never played the game before, but once you get used to the controls, you'll be fine. I mean, you'll still die occasionally, but not as much as you'd expect. Sonic doesn't really have a lock-on homing attack, and if I'm correct, that wasn't implemented until Sonic Unleashed. But with Sonic and Shadow, if you're not locked on to anything or in the general area of an enemy, you'll just push forward and fall into a bottomless pit or lava. Depends on where you are. There are gems in the games that you can use in the stages that make Sonic unstoppable. But because the meter in the bottom is broken, the gems make exploring the hub world and some stages more entertaining. Sonic can run at top speed or shrink down with those gems. You can buy them in Soliano, by the way. Just thought I'd mention that. Also, if Sonic hits a dash pad and he's running at top speed and you hit a wall or a bridge, he'll fall right over. Just thought I'd mention that also. Sonic has two stages where he carries Princess Elise around, and if you press the right trigger button, you can activate this little shield to where you can walk on sand and water, but that's all you can really do with it. He homing attacks, and that's pretty much it. Some stages are pretty fun, with my favorites being Radical Train and Crisis City, and my least favorite being Tropical Jungle. The stages don't really require much thought until you get to Shadow and Silver stages. They're pretty simplistic, but stages like Kingdom Valley and Aquatic Base go on for 8 to 12 minutes, which is a little too long, but it's mostly because of the loading screen in between the sections that really take you out of the experience. The bosses are pretty simple also. Just figure out their moves and wash, rinse, repeat. The camera will be your biggest enemy in these boss battles and other sections of the game as well. And now I have saved the best for last. Sonic's fastest sections in the entire game. The Mach Speed sections, where Sonic is really hard to control if you're a first time player. Trust me, as a kid these sections pissed me off, and now they don't really bother me. You can't really jump until you hit the ground, so that's kind of the only thing that really bothers me about the entire section. But once you get used to it, the Mach speed sections are pretty easy, and it makes you feel better when you accomplish one in one go without dying. Also, I forgot to mention, there are 2 snowboarding sections that would be fun if Sonic didn't lock up all the time with the controls and you could get the jump right. It would be really fun to play, but just because the controls are so wonky and weird, it kind of takes you out of the experience, and it's a section that you really just want to pass through in a matter of seconds. And I think that's about it. I really do wish I could go back in time and get developers to fix this game. If only it had a few more months to be complete, it would have been the best Sonic game of all time. With everything I said in this video, I don't really have the same amount of hatred for this game as everybody else does. Yes, it has its problems, but I still replay the game to this day, so there has to be something there for me. I feel like it's the same thing with the Star Wars prequels. Everyone hated it back in the day, but now it has some respect in the community. And honestly, if you look aside all of the BS that this game puts you through, it's definitely tolerable. I will cover the other 2 stories in another video. Well, actually, there's going to be 4 parts to this. This part, which is Sonic Story, Shadow Story, Silver Story, and then the last story. I'm going to cover all 4 parts of the game, and I'll go more into the story, hopefully in the next review, and hopefully I could put another review out in time, hopefully. So we'll see that. I just always really wanted to talk about Sonic 06 as a game ever since, like I said, with my old channel, I always wanted to talk about Sonic 06. I've played Sonic 06 on my old channel, so, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to see more of an in-depth review, I suggest you watch Clement's review. His review is really, really good. He goes into, like, really in-depth about the game, and he does about 7 parts. I believe it's 7 or 8 parts. I can't remember. I haven't watched those videos since I was like 13 years old. But I really do thank you guys for watching this video. A lot of time and effort went into making this video. So if you could leave a like, that would really mean a lot to me. Also, subscribe if you want to see more Sonic content coming to the channel and more game reviews. I do plan on doing a bunch of other game reviews after I finish Sonic 06. So if you want to see a playthrough of Sonic 06, let me know. Maybe in the future, if we get a certain amount of likes and subscribers, we'll cover a playthrough of Sonic 06. But once again, I thank you all so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. And hopefully you will stick around for the other 4 parts, which will hopefully come out a week of each other. I'm not sure, not going to promise that. But once again, thank you all so much for watching. It really means a lot to me, and I will see you next time.
He's a rocket and he's ready to go, cause now the countdown has started and he's ready to blow. He's got the dope sounds bumping and his stereo. That's fast, putting on the show. Don't wanna get yourself together, there's no time to rest. And if you put the time in, he'll put you to the test. He's like a running man.